how can the HR department of a company, let's stick to tech companies for now, really foster that culture, the supportive culture, and that culture of diversity and inclusion? I mean, is there a way in which it can be augmented, given the time that you said that Irina and you were obviously climbing the corporate ladder at a different time? Now with the Gen Z workforce coming your way, can this genuinely be tweaked to foster that support?
Yeah, I mean, before we get to HR policies and all of that, I think first of all, it's the mindset that needs to change, right? Both within oneself, but also within the organization. I think a lot starts with yourself. And I think if you set your goal very clearly in terms of what is it that you want to do, right? And of course, backed up with the right support system, the right organization, there's no stopping you, right? That's important. So I always tell, and it applies to both men and women, it doesn't matter which gender. I think very important starts with what's going on in your head. That's one thing. The second thing is create that support system, right? I mean, HR is just one element of the larger piece. Create that support system for yourself because, I mean, that can be a support system at home, it can be amongst your friends, it can be in the organization, but create that very strong support system who's going to really support you in those times where you need them, right? And like Irina said, to be able to also speak up for you when you're not around. And goes back to this whole topic of sponsorship. And something that a HR team can do is really look at who are those sponsors, advocate sponsors in the organization, because many times sponsors think, hey, there's only certain places where you need to bring up the person that you're kind of vouching for, but make it part of the practice itself, right? Make the whole policies around your organization, around having that advocacy possible. And the point what I'd also like to make from a HR point of view, today there are so many things when you put in an application and where you already kind of have some unconscious biases built into that application. Mm-hmm. But technology can help you make sure that those biases are removed, right? Like if you look at some of the AI, you talked about AI earlier, AI-based technologies that scan through thousands of resumes and find the best possible match. So I'd say we need to really embrace technology even more and of course have the right policies and practices in place that really give you all the possibilities to also have that support in different phases of your career. So all these things need to come together. I'd say first of all, start from your own self. Second, find a good support system. Of course, map back into the organization that also gives you that platform to excel at different phases in your career. All of these need to play together. HR is just one piece of the whole equation.
So then building on that thought, given the fact that, as tech leaders, you have so many people in the organization, men and women that you manage, how do you address the issue of attrition of women in tech? How do you manage to retain top talent? What are the key things that you look at when you're scaling up the organization?
Yeah, multiple things, right? You want to start, Irina? So, I mean, when you talk about attrition, I think the first and foremost thing is to find out why people leave, right? And many times, when you look at those exit interviews, as we call it, there's multifold reasons, right? It's never only one. And the most important one that comes up is your immediate leadership. Who's your immediate leader? What are the practices that are being followed? The second thing that comes up is what are the career possibilities that exist? And usually if people say, hey, I don't see those opportunities for me to kind of get to the next level, that is also one of the reasons. And third is compensation. I mean, no brainer on that one. So it's always these three things. So to nurture the leadership in the organization, to make sure, and particularly for women, to make sure that they have that right support system across as they grow into different roles, to support them, to make sure that this is also talked about in your talent roundtables. Who are those women in the organization that we want to make sure that take on a completely different role in a totally different part of the organization? Somebody who's driving tech today can totally run the field organization. Why not? To have those conversations very actively, I think, is super important. And to also make sure that you exemplify those leaders who stand for those practices, because it goes both ways, right? So one is to really make sure that you identify those people, talk about them, and make sure that also there are the leaders who are supported and also glorified for that.
I'll just add up to that. I think you've touched upon so many things, and I think another thing to add to that is the pandemic has showed us in times like now, hybrid is the way to go. Hybrid will be the future. So the previous panelists were talking about India's moment right now. I think with the opening of AI, it's technology's moment right now. And the hybrid is giving the power to the women with a flexible approach for their moment now. And I'll tell you why. In a study which was done by McKinsey, it showed that women, why they are leaving workforce, is because of the lack of flexibility given to them. Hybrid is giving them the highest flexibility. When the question is asked to men and women, 47% of the women are saying that I would stay back if I'm giving flexibility. Less than 30% of men are saying that, right? So which means that it does matter to them. And when you think about the culture, that it's providing this, three things an organization look at. One, hybrid can give you the social culture. It can give you the knowledge culture. It can also give you the human culture, irrespective of where you are based out of, right? So these three things coming together for women, and they're not losing their sleep, that I literally have to show up for that 9 to 5 job, and I cannot manage that, so let me drop out and come back. That is important. Also, I think a lot of organizations are now looking at getting women back to workforce. All the organizations, SAP, Microsoft, everybody is kind of putting in ways that you create things for giving women to have a chance for upskilling themselves and then getting back into the mainstream. Because mind you, even in the time that they left the workforce, they got different kind of skill sets. If they left it for bringing up their child, they got different kinds of skill sets in terms of being multitask, great leaders, and kind of fostering those skills, which are also needed skill sets for a woman to kind of be a leader, right?